Hey there, everybody. Meteorologist Will Haney here. Been a little bit since I've hopped on one of these, but I'm filling in for Keith tonight, and I know he usually hops on a little after 9, so wanted to do just that, to discuss what's ahead for the weekend and look ahead to early next week as well, and just walk you through the forecast. Plus, we're going to look to start, just for fun, we're going to look at, for those curious, how we ended up this year as far as snowfall. There's some interesting little takeaways there that I'll share here in just a moment. But first, I'm going to let some folks trickle into the room. I hope everyone is enjoying their Friday evening. Pretty nice one out there overall. Pretty quiet weather and a little on the cool side, but certainly not too chilly. We had some decent color, I think, in parts of West Michigan for sunset tonight. So if you got any good pictures of that, feel free to send it my way, and I can try and get that on for our 10 and 11 o'clock news. All right, so without further ado, let me switch things around, and I'm going to make my graphics a little bigger. So yeah, as mentioned, things are pretty quiet out there. That's the live look in Vicksburg. We were tapping into tulip time, which kicked off today in Holland, and it was looking busy per usual, and to be expected on the first day, especially that we had some pretty decent weather up there today. It was a little on the chilly side, though. It was in the lower to mid 50s there, if not even a little chillier at times, thanks to a northerly wind and northwesterly wind kind of coming off of Lake Michigan. So as we look at satellite and radar right now, we are dry, but there is some showers kind of in the region. I don't really expect much of this rain off to our west to survive much farther east. There's a trough in the atmosphere, basically a little dip in the jet stream, and that trough is going to eventually be cut off, which we'll touch on here in just a second. But if I were to kind of draw where this trough is currently hanging out, it's currently kind of like right about there, okay? So that's not the best representation. That's a dashed line, but imagine if that was like an arrow kind of generally traveling from west to east. That would be kind of the orientation of the jet stream. So within that little dip, you have just some general showers, some clouds, and then kind of on the western periphery of it, a little bit of some storms, but none of this is severe. There was some severe weather well to our east today. In fact, it looks like one severe thunderstorm warning there in kind of like east central Ohio, with that cluster of storms that's lifting out of the Cincinnati area, probably through like Columbus right now. But anyways, that is neither here nor there. What we will touch on in just a second is the impact that upper level trough is going to have on our weather through the weekend and early next week. So let's take a look at the pattern, and we'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll get to the nuts and bolts of this weekend's forecast. But this is just that pattern. So remember, I was talking about that trough. You can kind of see that dip there. That's what I was trying to show. So it's a little dip in the jet stream, and that's what's bringing the cooler air this weekend. It's also what brought our showers earlier today and what will eventually bring our rain this weekend. But watch what happens. So notice how it kind of has that U shape to it. Throughout the day tomorrow, what's going to happen is an upper level low, an area of kind of low pressure in the upstairs of the atmosphere. It's counterclockwise spin. It's going to get cut off from the jet stream. So we call this a cutoff low. Why do we know it's cut off? Because see how it just kind of forms this big blob, this big circle? It's going to just hang out there. What happens with cutoff lows is they're literally cut off from the jet stream. So it's almost like, think of the jet stream like a river of air, right? It'd be like if you had a flotation device or like a pool ring, right, in the middle of a river that's moving pretty fast. All of a sudden, you take that and you put it right on the bank, perhaps, where the water is flowing a lot slower. Or maybe there's like a little inlet where the water isn't flowing really much at all. That's kind of what these areas of low pressure sometimes do. So we consider this a cutoff low. So this is just going to be hanging off to our south the next several days. And with that, it's going to keep us cooler for one, I think mostly cloudy for another, and then also keeps the chance of showers around even into early next week. So I do think tomorrow is mostly dry. I think the better chances for rain are Sunday and Monday, and then possibly even into Tuesday as well, because we're still just going to be kind of in the influence of that low. It finally will get pulled farther east by about Tuesday/Wednesday next week. And so when that happens, we'll start to warm up and get nice weather yet again. But it's kind of just this pesky upper level low that's going to be parked over our region into the weekend. So you do see we are cooler with temperatures generally in the 50s and 60s throughout much of this weekend. Again, tomorrow is your dry day, and then there's a better chance of rain inconveniently timed on Sunday, which is the Ziegler Kalamazoo Marathon Day, Sunday morning, happening in Kalamazoo. I apologize, I haven't read any of the comments. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Shelly. Good evening, Jesse from the Berg. What's up, Jesse in the Berg? And Kathy checking in from Sturgis. Always appreciate you. Hi, Will. Spending the evening up in Traverse City. Ooh, Jasmine, look at you. That sounds nice. Probably a little chilly up there, too. Gwen, good evening. And good evening, Keith and Melissa. Jesse again. The goats are begging for some warmer weather, it sounds like. Keith and Melissa, I think, was talking about Vicksburg and asking for the weather to mellow out a little bit. It has been kind of that way the last few weeks, hasn't it? And all right, Muskegon on Sunday. Sheila, if Muskegon gets rain on Sunday, it's going to be very late in the day, and I think Muskegon, there's a decent chance stays dry Sunday, which I'll touch on here in just a second. I'll kind of explain why. Oh yeah, Bank Street Farmers Market happening in Kalamazoo. I think that's their season opener tomorrow. Go get you some asparagus. I think that's like usually I remember some of the first farmers markets. That's like the big crop that's in. And don't quote me on that if I'm still too early, but I'm pretty sure asparagus season is now. Michigan is like a huge producer of asparagus, something I did not know until I moved here. All right, anyways, so the Ziegler Kalamazoo Marathon, I think the race begins at 7. I know that, I should say. I think we're dry when the race begins at 7. Now the marathon begins at 7. I believe like the half starts at 8. Don't quote me on any of this. Double check your race pack in case you're running. But I think it's like the half starts at 8, and then the 5K and the 10K start at different times too. But new this year, in case you didn't know, or in case you're going to look, or if you're looking to watch the start, it is at Bronson Park this year. It was at Arcadia Creek Festival site last year. It's moved around a little bit. I'm not sure. I think they're just still kind of fine-tuning the route or whatever. But I do have that chance of showers, though, by, I would say, 9. Might be a little on the early side, but definitely by 11 or noon. It would not be shocking if a little rain starts to lift in from the southeast. As you can see there, it will also be decently chilly, so temperatures are going to be in the 40s. There's also going to be a decent breeze, north-northeast at about 10 to 20. I believe the route basically initially runners run pretty far south, I know through portions of Portage, and then they're eventually looping back to downtown Kalamazoo as well. So if you just so happen to be running the marathon or the half, I would count on maybe facing some wind on your way back, which is not fun for the second half of a run to be running into the wind. So I'm sorry. But there is that little bit of a northerly wind component that runners will be running into. It'll be chilly, but when you're running a marathon, 40s and a little rain feels probably pretty good. I can't really speak from experience, but I've never ran a marathon. I've run very minimally, but sometimes 40s, 50s, once you get going, that feels great. You wouldn't want like 30s or 20s. At least I wouldn't. I'm sure there's some hardcore runners that are like, bring it on. All right. But anyways, let's walk through the hour by hour because I think this does a decent job of kind of telling the story for Sunday. So normally we would start this tonight and go through tomorrow, but I'm not because I don't really expect much in the way of any sort of changes. I think we'll stay mostly cloudy tonight. If we see a shower tonight, it's going to be mainly near the lakeshore. By around 6 a.m. Sunday, I do believe, like I said, we'll start the day cloudy and dry. Here comes that shower chance, though, as early as 9 a.m., if not even earlier. Keep in mind, if this weather model were off by an hour or two, that's still pretty good. Like 2 days out for a weather model to be off by an hour, that's pretty common, I would say. So don't be shocked if this was like a little earlier is all I'm trying to say. So by 8, 9 o'clock, I think some showers will be starting to creep their way on in. And then that rain will become likely steadier, but we're hoping the best case scenario is this rain just kind of holds off south of Kalamazoo through the marathon, through lunchtime, and then kind of starts into the early afternoon. The earlier data was showing that rain lifting in as early as like 9, 10, 11. Now it's showing it a little later. So that could be a good sign. It's definitely a good sign, but we'll just have to see if that trend holds. I do think by Sunday afternoon, most of us will be seeing rain, especially along and south of I-94. Whoever it was asking about Muskegon. The reason why I think Muskegon could honestly stay dry pretty much all of Sunday is because this rain mostly will lift up to about I-96, and you can kind of see there it will kind of dissipate by late Sunday into Monday, at least the steadier rain. And then we'll just have this kind of spotty shower chance around late Sunday into Monday, and then often on Monday as well. If Muskegon was going to see some of this rain, I think it would be late Sunday into the very early morning hours on Monday, as that band of rain kind of like lifts and continues to push farther north. So that's, again, the forecast for Sunday. It'll be a little breezy, and then we do still have some rain chances that hold into the start of next week. Again, we were talking about that upper level low. It's still kind of influencing our pattern Monday, even into Tuesday, but we're just kind of going to continue to spin some showers our way before it finally migrates farther east and we're left with some nicer weather. It is surprising to see me on a Friday night, says Rocky. Yeah, it is not too bad out there today and tomorrow. All righty. I appreciate you tuning in, Rocky. Yeah, Keith, we kind of have some wacky schedules this weekend. So Colin is off, enjoying some time away. And so our schedules are a little wonky. I think Keith's working Saturday morning because he's running the 10K on Sunday. And then Jeff is working Sunday morning. I'm normal, so Saturday, Sunday nights. But that's why I'm working tonight for Keith. So sometimes we got to do that a little bit, help each other out. We all pitch in and shift our schedules all around. But Sunday, again, marathon day, looking a little wet, especially into the afternoon and evening. We're hoping it holds off until after the marathon is finished. Look at Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, though. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Now, as promised, my neck. I'm looking down at my laptop. Got to put it up here. All right. As promised, if it loads, let's see. I didn't hit load. Oh, no. Oh, no. Come on, computer. Locked up on me. Let's see if I can get this. What the heck? Sometimes my graphics do this. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is for all you snow lovers out there. We're not talking snow in the forecast. Don't panic. In fact, based on what I'm looking at, I would bet. How much would I bet? I'd bet $100 that we don't see. Well, I'd bet $100 we don't see any more accumulating snow this year, and that's a very, very conservative bet. I would bet $50 we don't see another snowflake this year based on some of the long-range stuff I'm seeing. And I'm stalking West Michigan. So if anyone wants to take that bet, let me know. So season snowfall, this is looking at it by month. What we're looking at is measurements taken at WWMT. So we take measurements here on a snowboard in our backyard. Just some interesting takeaways. I'm kind of done talking about the forecast, so if you're tuning in for that, you're going to have to watch it back a little later or tune in at 10 and 11. But I just wanted to end on this because it is kind of interesting. So we started things actually warmer than average. October, November, and December were all warmer than average. We started the season of snowfall at a decent pace. We got a little above average. That's what these numbers on the bottom are. So that like +3 inches, -4.5. Those are the departures from average. So the difference between this bar on the left and this bar on the right. This is average for the month of November. And then this is what we saw in 2024/2025. Okay, makes sense? So you can kind of see we were a little bit above average in November, slightly below in December, near average, just barely below in January. So our snowiest month was obviously January here, which is common. But it was the fact that we consistently underperformed, most notably in March. We only had a ½ an inch, which has definitely been a theme as of late in the last several years. Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon to still have snow on the ground like well into March in many cases, sometimes even into April. But that is definitely becoming less common. we are seeing a warmer climate, and I believe in large part due to climate change, we are seeing a shrinking of the snow season. And it's not necessarily earth-shattering, I believe, information to tell most people that. But we are definitely, I believe, seeing a shrinking snow season as far as, those, it's not impossible. It's not to say we're never going to see another really snowy March or even a really snowy April. It's just that those are becoming a lot less common. And this is what we're seeing is, like, I would say winter ending a little sooner as far as snowfall. We've definitely seen that the last couple of years. So anyways, yeah, December slightly below, January at just slightly below snowfall, January decently below, and then March well below. So when you stack up a bunch of months that are below average, you end up with a total of 14.5 inches below what is considered our average, which is 66.3. Yeah, 66.3 inches is our average in the last 30 years. And that has actually come down slightly. When I first got here, Keith was telling me, the average for Kalamazoo was traditionally thought to be around like 70 or 72. But when I compiled the data that we've measured here in Kalamazoo for the last 30 years and took an average of it, it was closer to like 66. Now, you contrast that with Grand Rapids. I don't have the monthly breakdown because it's a lot of work to create that monthly graphic. But the Grand Rapids total this season was 63.8. So beating out Kalamazoo by about 10 inches, which is pretty typical because you can see the average is about 10 inches more than what Kalamazoo sees as well. And that's largely in part due to the fact that Grand Rapids, just higher latitude, is traditionally, trends maybe 2 to 3 degrees consistently colder than Kalamazoo will. And so on those borderline days, they might see a little bit more snow than Kalamazoo does. Now, that's not to say, of course, Kalamazoo, there's plenty of seasons that gets more than Grand Rapids, but just most often, Grand Rapids ends up with a little bit more. But you can see, even in Grand Rapids, they were about 13.8 below average, which is, funny enough, super close to the difference we were looking at in Kalamazoo as well. So hopefully you found that interesting. I know there's I don't know how much value that gives. It's more just like some interesting takeaways. But I will be honest, we were forecasting a near to slightly above average season. So that forecast did not verify. I'll be the first one to tell you that. That's how it goes with seasonal prediction. I'm not saying like they always end up incorrect. But when it comes to seasonal prediction, we can take like an educated guess is what I would call it. That's maybe not the best way to put it, but it's definitely far from exact. We are, when we're taking seasonal prediction and like long range snowfall forecasts, we're saying this is the most likely scenario, but there's still some very good or real chances that things could end up totally different. And so we were more snowy than last year, which was like the record. I believe it was either the first or second least snowy on record in several locations. So we at least improved on that, which was crucial for our winter sports industries, our ski hills, ice fishermen, all that stuff was a lot better this year, at least. But yeah, not a mammoth season snowfall by any means. So that's enough about snow, says Betty. No more snow. I agree, Betty. And if you missed it, I was saying I would bet $100 we don't see any accumulating snow in West Michigan the rest of the year. I would bet $50 we don't see another snowflake this year, based on what I'm seeing. Parts of the UP, different story. UP, I think, even might see some snowflakes tonight into tomorrow. Not necessarily accumulating, but just a few wet snowflakes. I think I was seeing that. So UP is a different world up there. Just kidding. But yeah, I think I'm pretty confident, especially as we look, once we start getting like when we see snow in May, which is it's rare, but we can. It happens. It's I won't say very rare, but it's rare. It's usually very early in the month, which makes sense, right? Because you're still early in the month where averages are still closer to the range that might still see snow. But, as you get farther and farther into May, you're getting more and more, to a point where it takes a much more extreme anomalous pattern to produce any snow. So overall confidence is pretty high that we are done with snow for the season. Hence why we're having that conversation. All right. Keith and Melissa, happy retirement. Who's retiring? All right. Oh, Jesse's doing a retirement party for our police officer, Mr. Smith. Hey, that's awesome, Jesse. Congrats to Mr. Smith. Is that a port, or is that a Vicksburg, Village of Vicksburg police, or not sure? All right. I am going to wrap this up. Thank you. Timmy was triggered by my use of the four-letter word SNOW. I'm sorry, Timmy. Steve says, nice rain for farmers growing crops. True that. Yeah, we're out of the drought, which is good. All right, I gotta go. Thank you all for hanging out with me, keeping me company for a little bit. Let me ramble on about seasonal snowfall, something I could do for twice as long as I did, if you can believe that. But we will conclude tonight's weather discussion. Thanks so much, and I will see you at 10 on ARC West Michigan and 11 on News Channel 3. And everybody, wish Keith well. He is running the 10K on Saturday. I talked to him yesterday. He's going to be in tomorrow morning working again, but he'll be off obviously Sunday to run his race, and he's feeling good. He said he's ready. He's ready to do it. He's been training and feeling good. So I'm excited for him, and we'll be cheering him on. All right. Bye, everybody.